we got to talk about it. You know, you got to give people the opportunity to talk about all of the good things that are going on where they are.
Exactly. And talking about it, and this that it gives you another insight. You can look at it, you can write it, you can see it, you can read it, and you also talk about it, and it gives you it'll give you some more insight and make ourselves even better because you realize some things when talking about it to other people and getting their perspective as well. So, always having a growth mindset, being a sponge and being able to learn from everybody, no matter whether they have more experience than you or up to that plateau where you want to go or where you're at that time.
That's it. We gotta be lifelong learners. All right, Coach, I'm gonna go ahead and get ready to get us on the stage. So I'm gonna go ahead and drop the intro, and then we'll be in this thing. Here we go. What do you got, Coach? 3 things that all coaches need. Who would you put on your Mount Rushmore of coaches?
New York or the Aces? Definitely going with the Aces.
All right, 4th down. Who has the tougher job, coaches or officials? If you could have any superpower, what would it be and why? For Texas, it's different. Welcome. This is the Coaches Co-op, where coaches connect, grow, and share the grind. I'm your host, Michael Prejean, better known as Coach P. Each week, I'm teaming up with coaches across the country to break down the wins, the lessons, and everything in between. Tonight, I'm teaming up with best-selling author and retired athletic administrator, Armando Jacinto. Coach Jacinto, how are you this evening?
I'm doing fine, Coach. It's good to see you again, and glad to be on and the platform that using your platform to educate coaches, and not just coaches, it's people, anybody who listens to your broadcast, and hopefully they can get some out and make them better people and better for their career as well.
Definitely, Coach. The first thing I want to do before I ask you to tell your to just kind of tell our viewers a little bit more about yourself and your journey is I want to give you your flowers. You are a true bridge builder. Everything that I have seen and watched you do has been to help others be better in this profession, Coach. So I just want to give you your flowers and tell you that I truly appreciate you, Coach.
It's kind of speechless. So, something I wasn't expecting, but thank you. And that's just something that, as I was going through progressing through my career, that's something that if I've got to a position where, I could impact a lot of people. Not that I wasn't, even when I was just an assistant coach, but I was always going to give back because I see how important it is, and me coming up, it's just very important to give back and to help people, because if you help them be better, then they'll pass it on to, and then the whole, the society's better.
That's it. So I know a little bit about your story because this is not your first time on the podcast, but I want to go ahead and give you the floor. Where eventually we're going to get to the book, but I want you to kind of build that backstory for us that will kind of help and lead us into the book. So tell us about you. Tell us about how you got involved in athletics and what led you to where you are today.
Okay. Well, I grew up through the boys club here in my hometown, where I'm back now in Waco, Texas, and my grandfather was the director, would say director of the boys club. So every day he picked me up, and I'd stay at the boys club 24/7. when I was out of school, as soon as school was out, all the way to when it closed, and every day in the summer from when it opened to when it closes, and that's where I was exposed to sports. And if you ever been to the boys club, I mean, you can play. You're talking about in any sport, football. I don't have to say football, basketball, wiffle ball, which is a form of baseball played inside, uh, up to pool, foosball. You can
Foosball.
swim.
There it is.
Yeah,
I was getting ready to ask if y'all had a foosball table.
yeah, ping pong. Checkers, chess. Cards, Uno, just everything. We also had a library you could read. So it's just you're exposed to a lot of things, and I just wanted to do everything. I just love competing. And I was talking to my wife the other day because now we found the local pool where we go twice a day. And I just remember when at the boys club when during the morning they had swimming lessons, okay, and then that took the morning, and then there was lunch where the lifeguards would took off, had lunch break, and then from I think from 1 to 3 you had the younger kids would swim in the pool from like 12 and under, and then they have a 15-20 minute break that where the lifeguards had a break, and then from there all the way to closing, like from 3:30 to 4:45, but that the older kids would go. And I remember that while all that was going on, when the young kids were in there, little kids. When I got older, now that's when we played. We got to play. We didn't have to worry about the little kids being in the way. Wanted to play with us with the older kids, and that's when we played some good pickup games, basketball games. We played. We were able to play the games with the older kids because the young kids they were in the pool. And then when we transitioned, then we would go to the pool. And I just remember how, and now that I've been doing it with me and my wife and getting in that pool, how it just works your body. I mean, it works we've been doing it for about a week now. It just kind of brought me back to then how, because then when I would even though my grandfather ran the boys club, I didn't want to wait for him when, close up and I'll bring my bike. So I'd have to run. And so I was so tired of swimming and riding that bike in the summer, going back home, which is about 2 miles. And sometime, man, I said, man, I wish I would have brought my bike. But I mean, it really brought me back to how swimming, man, it works everything. And as you get older, you're going to feel it a little bit longer. I mean, I can't do it like I used to. I mean, I can still swim, but I can't do it at the same pace and like that. But the next morning we always feel it filling your whole body. But it gives you it's a good feeling. It just brought me back to the old days. So that's what exposed me to sports. And as I got older and started playing at the boys club in team sports, I just gravitated to football, basketball, baseball. But I just little by little, I just fell in love with basketball. I don't know why I fell more in love with that than the others, even though I played them all. And I was pretty good in all of them, but I don't know that I just fell in love for basketball more than the others. And I just started, going that direction and just really started really working on it and honing my craft on my own. One thing I could do when I would come get out of school, I would run to be the first ones there, so I could get up there and work on my craft. I don't have to worry about playing with nobody or sharing the ball with anybody, and I could really work until everybody else started getting there after school, and I could really work my craft, and that's where I just became a better player and got better. And I would work on those things, and then when I would play pickup games, when I got confident, I would put them in pickup games, and when I got confident in the pickup game, then I would take it to the game. And I just kind of see that, kids nowadays, they don't do that. They get, and I'm not going to downgrade the AAU circuit for any sport, because there are some good some coaches that care about these kids.
Mm-hmm.
But I think not a lot of times, but just my opinion, those coaches are just trying to win games. They're not developing kids. They're not developing the player. And that's where, they were talking about the other day on TV with the Barkley and them talking about how the Europeans are, it seems like they're getting ahead of us in the game, and because the last 7 or 8, all the Europeans have been the MVPs, nobody from the United States. Yeah. So, and they're talking about because there's lack of player development, and I'm fighting that kind of with my grandson. That my daughter is, and she's a coach and she played too, and I'm trying to don't worry about him playing so much. You need to work on his game. And and then I work with him a couple of days, and things I work with him, none of those things they work with him, and those are things that's going to he's developing skill, and they're not doing that. And I understand that, that you might not have a chance to because I'm not out there with them. But I said that's why you don't need to just keep playing, because even in practice they just practicing, maybe running plays. Yeah, they shoot, but there's no way, there's no skill development, and it could be because of lack of time. I get that, but I tell him I was trying to get it. Don't worry about him playing so much. Let him work on his skill, and then in the fall, because he doesn't play any other sport, then let him play some more. And he can see where their skills are at, how much he's developed, and then he can put that practice into the game, and then that's going to make him a better player. But that's where I feel we fell behind that, and that's where I think, we didn't have AAU back then. It was just all pickup game. You pick up, and everybody worked on their craft, and then you came and you picked it up, and then once you felt comfortable with it, you took it to the pickup game, and then when you felt comfortable there, then you took it to when you played your organized game for your team. When I was younger at the boys club until I got to, and then I started with my school team. So that's just kind of getting off on the tangent, but that's kind of where I got my developed my love for sports and competition, and that's where I just learned to love the games and just took it on so as I progressed to school, and then after school, then going to the next level, and that's where I found my love for sports. But it was funny how which kind of not digressing, but transitioning into my career when I was going to.
Let me jump in right here, Coach,
Okay.
before you start going into your career. So you were, I was just listening to you talk about development and player development. I think we need to go back to the all-star model.
Mm-hmm.
So growing up, it was in the city. I'm from Louisiana. I grew up in Lafayette, Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
So you would play in whatever league that was in your community. So my community was NIA, the Northeast Youth Association.
Yeah.
Every now and then we'd have crosstown games. But for the most part, you played against the 7, 8, 10 teams that were in your league.
Exactly.
You'd have a champion, and then at the end of it, an all-star team would be selected.
Mm-hmm.
And then you would play against all the teams in your city. So we'd play against Lisa and Sly Cy and Scott and, all of these other K-Sci. We'd play against all of those areas.
Exactly.
You got out of the city, then you went to regions. If you can get out of region, then you went to state. So when we think about the AAU model, where it is today and how it's hurting player development, because I do believe that there's pressure on kids and families. We got to go do this. We got to play AAU. And it's not just basketball. It's also volleyball. There are kids playing volleyball year round. There are kids playing football year round. And, science tells us all kind of things. But I just wanted to kind of jump in there and just kind of really put it in the atmosphere. Let's really consider. I mean, even on the high school level, right? Even on the high school level, if we can figure out some way to really – let's get back to all-star. Let's get, the best of the best can keep playing. They can keep playing regional, and then when we get to live viewing periods, I was in a gym, Coach, 2 weeks ago, 9 courts, 8 or 9 courts, and there were dozens of coaches there, but the coaches were only really on 2 courts.
Yes.
Because there were only 2 courts that had kids that needed to be seen played.
Mm-hmm.
But there were little kids in there, and I'm like, man, this isn't, not to mention how much I paid to get in.
Oh, exactly.
That's another story for another day.
Exactly.
But, I'm not going to be long-winded here, but I'm going to kind of dig into this a little bit, and I think I'm going to start pushing. Let's figure out a way to get back into the all-star model. Because I think for the kids who have not made the all-star team, I think it gives them the opportunity to keep developing.
Exactly. I totally agree.
And then the all-star teams are playing against other all-star teams.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't go into some of these live viewing periods and the score is 54-18, 75-20. You don't have those things. You actually have your better kids playing against your better kids. But now I'm on a tangent. I'm gonna give it back to you, Coach.
I got you.
Your career.
And I totally agree because that's how we did. We when I played the boys club, we had a league, and then some of the things that we would like on Saturdays, we go play another boys club. Like we go to, I mean, we go to Temple, we go to Dallas. I remember we played South Oak Cliff, back South Oak Cliff Boys Club, and we played Temple, and we played we go to Austin, you know, and those were like the kind of like the AAU thing, but it wasn't because that was so much rivalry there. Because man, you know, you got Waco. It's, you know, it's Waco Boys Club, but say against Temple, but it's Waco against Temple. And I mean, I remember one time we went to play, and everybody would play. We had 4 teams. You had a Pee Wee, which was like 6 to 8. Then you had the next group juniors. Then you had intermediates. Then you had the seniors. And a lot of those seniors were the older guys that were in high school that didn't make the high school team, but they could come down there and play. And I remember we went to Temple one time, and the last game was always the high school guys. And you know, I was like on the Pee Wee team, and everybody looked up to the older guys. Man, we were ready to see them play, and they got into a big old fight. And I just remember that, you know, they wound up stopping the game, and we wound up, you know, going back. You know, that they stopped it, didn't finish the game, and I just remember stuff like that. But it was like a big rivalry because, you know, and everybody played. You know, like you had the freshmen, and you know, but it was just a big thing. You know that and it wouldn't work. You know, and it was just like you said, it's like that, and that's what I think we need to get. I totally agree because it's getting away from us, and the kids are not developing. They're not developing, and they're missing out on a lot of things that, you know, it's just not. It's taking away a lot of the fun.
That I agree with. We have to get the fun back into it, and I definitely think it's more fun when kids develop.
Yeah, exactly. Totally agree.
So from the boys club at Waco, into, I think one of my favorite things about your story is you were getting ready to graduate high school, you're getting ready to go to college, and you have a conversation with one of your teachers or coaches. Talk about that.
Yeah, he was he had wrote a letter to my mom and just thanking her for being able to coach me, and how you know, just how great an honor it was. So my mom just told me to tell him thank you. When I told him thank you, he just pulled me aside and he says, what are you gonna major in when you go off to school and go play? And I said business, and not knowing that I had a big old plan of I'm gonna open this business, or I have some big idea that I'm gonna make a lot of money off. I don't even know why I said it, because nobody in my family that on my mother's side that went to college, they were teachers and coaches. And my father's side, I was the first Jacinto to graduate from college, go to college. I'm not going to say go, but graduate from college. But anyway, and he said, you know what? He said, I thank you. He said, I put in the book that he said it'd be a big mistake, but I think, just paraphrasing, I misquoted myself, is that he said, I think your best bet, you're a great leader, you have a lot of knowledge, your best bet would to be a coach. And when he told me that's what took me down that path, even though I had people in my family that were coaches and educators. And from there, that's just the path that took me. And I started putting a lot of those things, because one thing, talk about mentorship, that he allowed me, and that's just kind of, I learned a lot from him, but didn't know like perspective reality, which, and I don't want to give too much away because I still want people to read it, is that he knew his gaps, and he allowed me to fill those gaps as a player. And that was a mentorship, and that's why he was able to tell me that I would be a great leader, and that I would be a great, he thought I'd be a great coach. And that just comes back to one of the sayings I have in front of this desk here, that kind of took it under, kind of based my philosophy as I got later on into coaching. And it's come from Eric Parsegian, who was a football coach at Notre Dame back in the 70s, that a good coach is one who sees what his players can be instead of what they are. And he saw what I could be instead of what I was. And when I saw that quote, and I thought back to what that brings me back to always what he did for me and put me on that path. And I remember a lot of those conversations that I would have with kids, with my players, about not so much giving up other sports, but focusing on the sports that I felt that was their best bet for them to get a scholarship in, really. That was the best bet. And then I said, don't stop doing this because you like it. Keep doing it because you still can help win games. I said, but this is the one you need to come. This is your bread and butter here. And in some of those conversations, I was talking to kids about putting focus on another sport and taking focus away from basketball. And when they would kind of say, and I said, and the kids, they don't know really what I did, as far as the sport. Then I played, but I didn't ever really tell them, all of them, what I did. And I said, if anybody knows basketball, it's me. And I tell them my accomplishments. So if I thought that you was one of that, I would tell you this is what you need to do. And I know when I was younger, and I even played games again. I said, I'll play. If I win, you concentrate on this. I said, you don't have to give it up, but you concentrate on this one. If you win, then you could put total focus. And if you want to give us enough, you give it up. And I never lost. But then I also know when to stop playing them because I know exactly as I got older. As long as I was in my 20s, I was good, even the best of them. But after when I got older and I knew I couldn't move as good, so we would play horse or do free throws and things like, but not so much or if we did play one-on-one, we go to 5, things like that. So, that just kind of put me on the path as far as of being a coach. And I'm going to give my flowers to him. And I never told him thank you because I've never seen him again. I don't even know if he's alive. And I've never talked to him again. And I put the word out and feelers out and see if he's even alive, and if not, I know somebody in his family is. But anyway, I haven't been able to thank him for that because I'm indebted to him for putting me on that path and put me on what I was able to achieve. But him putting me on that path was, man, it's fully indebted to him. I'll never forget what he did for me.
That's good. We need to get that type of guidance as a young man. He completely changed the trajectory of your life.
Yes, sir.
Which changed the trajectory of my life. Right? Just who knows if I ever come into contact with you.
Yes, sir.
If it had not been for that gentleman. Coach, I want to do something right here. You are from Waco.
Mm-hmm.
I know you spent time coaching in Waco and Austin, as well as being a assistant athletic director and athletic director in Spring ISD in the greater Houston area. But I want to focus on Waco right here. Mm-hmm. This segment is called Talk That Talk. So, Coach, I want to give you the opportunity to talk about all of the good things that are going on in Waco, Texas. Okay? Talk about all the good things that are going on in the schools there, in the city, in the community, in the athletic programs. So, Coach, here's your opportunity to talk that talk. You started in Waco, you're back in Waco. So talk that talk about Waco, Texas.
It's one thing that since I've been back is, and more I'm talking about community wise, first of all, is that Waco is not up to, they're lagging behind in things like than bigger cities, like in the Houston area, even Austin. Where I've been. So I imagine the same thing goes for Dallas, San Antonio, all those the bigger cities, and they understand that it's going to take a little bit more. And when I talk to people and tell them and just mention about, give suggestions about things that can take them to the next level, they're all for that, but they're still hesitant because it takes a little bit more work. And it's not that they don't want to do the work, but because they haven't done it, even though I give them the evidence that these things can work. It's just, I think they don't really know how to implement it. And I told him, I'll help you, and I don't have to take the credit. It's not for me taking the credit. It's for helping you to be better for these kids. And and it's going to not just help the school and the community and the athletes, and it's going to help the whole thing, the whole city. So that's where there's a little bit of hesitation at. And they're kind of like in a bubble here, and they're good in this area. So they think that they're at the top of their level, but then when they play, go out and play these other teams, and they don't have to be from the city, but just other teams in other areas. And I know it's a little difficult because sometimes they're playing those one-horse town schools where everything is focused on that, and come here, you're kind of sharing, you're dividing a skill set. So things like that, and then they realize that And it's not that they're not good, but they kind of it's a humbling feeling
Yeah.
that they realize that how that they got to get better. They're not as good as they might not be as good as they thought they were, but also knowing that they still are good, but not knowing how do I get to that level when they're thinking they're at that level, but they're not. And like I'm telling them, hey, when I tell them, you gotta play these guys, these are different. It's a different level, man. I said, y'all not bad. Y'all can compete, but I don't tell them they don't have a chance. But I know me, it's a different level, and
Yeah.
it shows them the outcome. And it's not like they're getting beat, pretty handily, and I tell them, I said, I told you, man, these guys are different levels, and now y'all can get there, but these are the things you need to do to get there, and and they see that, but there's still some hesitation about how to get there. Not that they don't want, but how to get there, and I give suggestions, and I said, I'll be glad to help you get there, but there's just some hesitation about. Um, I think kind of like all people are, they're afraid to put the work in and it doesn't work. Doesn't mean that you didn't get better, but they still, they practice too. I
Yeah.
realize that, they practice too.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure when you're practicing, that team, they practicing over there as well. And they got some coaches as well. So, but when you're behind, you can make up the gap, but if they're improving too, the gap's still going to stay. There's still going to be a gap there. And it can't just close it in one in over one summer. Something that's got to start at the lower levels,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's got to start there. So they're doing good things. I mean, they want to progress, but like I said, they're still behind in some of the thought processes of and implementing those processes in order to get to the level where some of these other teams are at and where they want to be. But if you haven't been there, you don't know what's going to take to get there, and I tell them that's another thing I always when I doing in mentoring, I said always seek guidance or references from somebody who has been where you want to go, uh, and that's just kind of how I see it, that you can't ask somebody to help who hadn't been where you want to go, because how they might have a plan, but how do they know how to know implementing that plan? And it's not so much the plan itself, but when the plan don't work, the adjustments.
Yeah.
That's coaching.
Yeah, you need somebody who's been there. You need somebody who has walked that walk
Exactly.
that can show you the things that are happening there.
Yeah. And just one more thing, and that just finishing up, coach, is that also there's been in the Waco schools, there's been a lot of transition. So they have some good coaches going on, but they kind of use it as a stepping stone, and then they leave, and then here you go starting all over again. Even though you have the base has been set, the foundation has been set, but now you got somebody else coming in, and they're going to do it. They're going to have their way of doing it. Then there's another adjustment. And so it's going to take that transition, and that's going to put you a little behind, because the transition takes takes some time as well. So that's another thing that they're fighting and trying to get somebody that's going to be invested. I don't think some of these coaches have been there. They're not really invested. They're here in order to build their resume and then leaving, and not be invested. Somebody who's going to be there for a while, and I think that's one of the reasons we were successful when I was here, because our staff was together for 10 to 15, 20 years. So we were coaching, say I coach you, and then I'm staying there 15, 20 years. Now I'm coaching your little brother, your cousin, your niece, so all that's going through. So when they come, I got you. What's better than word of mouth? You're going to say, oh yeah, listen to Coach Jacinto, man. He cared, they're going to do this. This is Coach Prejean. They've been there, so they got that word of mouth, and so they're going to be ready to take what you're going to give them. There's not going to be any resistance, and that makes it easier for to continue. Keep the continuity, because you built a culture, and you've also built a reputation.
That's good. That's good. So I kind of want to pin that and talk about that just for a little bit. So I'm not a native Texan, so I know that Waco does have a history past, right?
Yes,
Waco was one of the great sports towns in Texas. especially when I moved here. I've been in Texas about 25 years now. So the previous interview that I did, the coach left us off with one thing, and the one thing was that there's still hope for our profession, right? So how do we get coaches to be in a community and then be invested in that community, right? To be, for lack of a better term, how do we get coaches to be where their feet are and not necessarily looking at places as launching pads or stepping stones? What are some of the ingredients in getting coaches to be invested and to stay for a while?
I think is that if you can get somebody that has a past there, of an alumni, or somebody that's from the area, that'll help. But they also got to be qualified. I mean, you can't just get them even though they meet the qualifications, but you got to make sure they're the right fit. They're the right fit for that person. That gives you a leg up. But then when they are there, then supporting who they're bringing in with them. That's the key. This, that's the most of you, because you can't do it by yourself. You got to have those assistants that are just an extension. That's got to be an extension of you. And I think if you can get somebody, which is still hard, but it's not that hard. But you have to go find them, and that goes through networking and knowing who that's from the area that's involved in coaching, and that's so big a part of networking, of knowing who's out there to pick from. Like our local the junior college here, MCC, the girls coach, they made it to nationals. So the girls coach was I taught her history, and my wife coached her at university. And so, she's going to be invested in MCC because she's from Waco. Yeah. And so I tried to even get her to when the Caney job came open, but she was invested and didn't want to leave because she felt she had a good chance. She was assistant then, and when the guy, the coach, he wound up going to university, and he's now coaching on the boys' side. He's not the head coach, but he got out, and she moved up. And it's just a weird thing about the mentorship and and just networking, is that the guy who was the head coach, he lived behind me here in Waco. Me and him went to the boys' club together, and him and his brother lived behind me. And it's just a small world. And now that she's so she's going to be invested. I'm pretty sure it's going to be hard to keep her at that level because she's doing so well. Yeah. But I wouldn't be surprised, like in a couple of years, if she don't go up, either get up to the college. I mean, she's already college, but to the 4-year school level, because she's doing that well. But she was invested, and I said, when I talked to her about a head basketball job, she said, "No, Coach, I'm happy here." And I think that's one of the reasons, she being from Waco and being in that area. So that's the first thing, getting somebody from the area that meets the qualifications, and then giving them the make sure that they get the people that they need to be an extension of them to that's the first thing, is getting that. Then you can establish your culture. Because I know everybody talks about culture and everybody uses different words for it, no problem. And I was big on that too. But what I realized is that first you got to get the right people on that bus. And not taking this from the book I read, Getting on the Bus. First you got to get the right people on the bus. And then you get the wrong people off. And you do it quick. You don't wait, because if you wait, you're going to get resentment from the right people. And also you get resentment from the community. And then and the longer you take, or you don't get rid of them, or don't get them off the bus, then the right people wind up leaving. And then once you do that, then put the right people in the right spots. And if you do that, then they're going to be an extension. And then your program's going to flow smoothly. And then you have to make people feel valued. I see that so much lack of that from, and I'm just going to say it, from the administration, upper administration. And I think, because, and I don't fault them. I don't think it's they don't want to. I just think they got so much on their plate education wise that they're pushing that so much down their throat. And when we have proper conversations, I would say, if you told coaches that they had 10 hours to practice, if they changed the rules, you could go 10 hours, the coaches wouldn't use that extra 2 hours to practice. They would use that extra 2 hours to maybe film. They could get in the weight room. They could do study hall, because we realize that like enough is enough. Too much is it ain't you don't get the mindset, you don't get the focus, and they're tired because
That's
they're in
right.
school all
That's
day,
right.
no matter the sport, and even if it's not a physical, it's a mental thing. And they said, oh, they will. I said, yeah, but y'all, if they gave y'all, if they extended the school day by another hour, y'all would what I would do is I would do that for a life skills class,
Yeah.
emotional skill,
Yeah.
because emotionally nowadays that's still at the forefront, the mental part,
Mm.
with all this and not just our students or our athletes, but even our coaches, that's so important to it's coming more to the forefront. It's more open. People talk about it now, the mental part, and people with depression and having anxiety, things like that. I said y'all probably would add another remedial uh, star test class, something like that, and
Yeah.
because these kids, y'all do enough that then y'all have them come remedial after, and then I have tutoring after, and I get it. Those who need the help and will take it, I get that. Let's provide that, but they're not going to do it. They don't go home and do the homework.
Right. Right.
So that's why there's so much less work that's being signed for homework because it's not being done. So what do we do? And so they made a concession and try to get everything done. And they talk about higher level thinking. I get that, but in every profession, coach, when you have a question about you want to look at something, you look at it, you look at your film, you go and look at some other teams do it and try to get
Mhm.
ideas. You don't have to think. Yeah, you do it in the game, you have to think off the, yeah, you have to make decisions. We get that, but like doctors, they get to go look at the book, they get to go consult. Now when you're in there in a life and death situation, surgery, I get that, but they still have some a reference there. They're still there to, they have things there to reference to make sure that they're doing it right. And if there's issues that come up, um, and that's why you have assistants. And now everybody can use it. You can use technology on the bench now. It's getting to that point, so you can go back and look, and you can look at data. So there's very few instances where you have to have a higher level thinking right off the bat, and
Right.
so
Right.
so so and more. Like they say, less is more. That's what I think is less is more, and let the kids have fun. There's no relationship when you're in the classroom. Everything you don't when you get time to talk to the kids, you don't. They want to keep them busy. Come on, get in. Y'all start with whatever they call that little opener. Then you got to do this. They want them occupied the whole time. When you get to talk to the kids and hey, how you doing? Hey, what do y'all think about what we're doing? No, if you do that, then you get in trouble. They write you up, and then what do? Man, I'm gone. you know.
Yeah.
So so
I've
that's what I think,
always
Coach.
I've always said that all of the things that administrators want to see in the classroom, they need to go to practices.
Exactly.
They need to go to athletic practices. You will see scaffolding. You will see small group instruction. You
Hmm.
will see remediation. You
Yes,
will see
exactly.
all of those things, and you will see it. Kids will be engaged.
Hmm.
You will have high level instruction the whole time. But for some reason, certain groups of certain pockets of people think that coaches don't teach well. But no, coaches teach the best.
Exactly. Totally.
Coaches teach the best.
Hmm.
Um,
Absolutely.
so, Coach, you hit a lot of good things there. You talked about having the right people in place, and then I don't want people who may be watching or listening to miss this. You talked about how when things aren't in place, then the community is frustrated. But if you take the time to put the right people in the right places, get the right people on the bus, get the wrong people off the bus, then you have energized the entire community
Exactly. Exactly.
through athletics.
Exactly. And
Through athletics and everything that is connected to athletics. Because you think about Friday nights. We know about Friday night lights in Texas.
mhm.
So not only is the football team there, but the band is there, the cheerleaders are there, all of the parents of all of those kids are there. Okay.
Mhm.
The dance team is there, and all of their parents are there. The ROTC is there.
Exactly.
So you got all of those people there on Friday nights, and having the right people in the right places in your athletic programs energizes the entire community. And that's athletics.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
athletics.
And now I have a question for you, Coach. And this is, and it applies to everything, but just as a just a situation. Say you start having people, you having your players not reporting on time, and it becomes becomes habitual. Okay, so that whatever your team rules are, I know you do that, but once you start saying having not all of them, but you have 2 or 3, keep doing it, and you've used all methods what you thought to correct the situation. How many times? And I know we don't like to do this, but I know we've all done it. Not all that, but how many times has the whole team had to pay for what a couple are doing?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. And
I ain't
I'll
gonna say how many times, but there's been instances where the whole team had to pay for what only a couple or maybe even one was doing. Correct?
yeah,
Okay.
and I want, for people who may be watching or listening who may not get it. So I want to go to the end. I want to go to the end. I want to go to game day.
Yeah.
The final result on game day is impacted
Exactly.
by those who are habitually stepping out of bounds.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Because the time that we've had to take to discipline those kids, the time that we've had to take out of that, or the time that they've missed practice, or the playing time that they end up missing. Mm-hmm. So what we do is we use that opportunity to correct them. We use it as a whole group method to show, hey, this is the real impact of this. It really impacts everybody.
Exactly.
And I wanted to make sure, because some people don't always understand that. Sometimes the kids don't understand that.
Exactly.
But we use that opportunity to improve as a teaching method, because we're going to get to game day and it's really going to hurt us.
Yeah, exactly. And say you use that instance to talk to the whole team. Say that
Mm-hmm.
It's not the punch, but that's what you said. This is going to be a lesson for the whole team. And as humans, what are the ones who are the ones who are doing what you ask? When you're saying, you're going through your soliloquy about, and you're making this a life lesson, what are they saying? Why this don't mean, why do I got to listen to this? I'm following the rules.
I didn't do it.
And they know, man, they should, because human, and they were saying, she'd be talking to Jacinto. They're not, some will say it out loud and some are thinking that. Mostly all of them are thinking that. This is and as they go out, they're walking toward the parking lot, they're all talking, man, how come you tell me? Because Jacinto, so there's resentment. That's what I'm talking about the right people on. But now I know there's a little different when you got a team, because you can do that. If it comes to that point, you got to sit them down, or you got to remove them. I get that. And then, but going back to what we talked about getting the right people, I also have that question. So, well, Coach, how do you know if you got the right people? 3 things. They're disciplined, self-motivated, and they're there because somebody else is there.
That's good.
And because now when you do that, now you don't have to go, well, now everybody, when y'all come in, y'all got to sign in when you come into the locker room. No, because they're disciplined. They're going to be there on time. And you don't have to worry about, well, you know what? We're going to run today because everybody didn't give me the effort I needed. You don't have to worry about that because they're motivated. And then the last thing with the motivation, which goes in there because somebody else is there, because some of them play because their friend's there. I get it. Some of them get there because you're there. They want to, play for you. Okay, no problem. But when they're but because of that, when something goes wrong because of the self-motivation, they don't want it to be because of them. So they're going to do everything in their power to make sure that it gets fixed and make sure that we have a great product or a great team or whatever. That's how you know when you got the right people.
That's good.
Then you don't have to worry about people signing in, or we all got to run today because so-and-so's late, or this and that. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about, and I know I had to go through it where now you have to clock in when you come to school. Because, certain people are being late.
Certain people, yeah.
Now everybody's got to clock in. Oh, man, we know why, because, man, you know why Central don't never come on time. So now we all got to pay. There's resentment.
Yeah.
And some people to the point where, man, at the end of the year, I'm leaving. I ain't gonna clock in. I'm leaving. And there you go. There's one of your right people leaving. When now I know you can't. That's not something you're gonna get rid of. But it is either just make them pay. Hey, you got to clock in.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's that's the way things work. So that's kind of going on that as far as being and when they're like that, then people are invested. They're disciplined and they're motivated. They're invested. They're invested because if something does not go right, they're going to do everything in their nature to make sure next time it's going to go right because of the motivation of just wanting to do well.
Listen, thank you. For those of you who are listening and watching, this is the Coaches Co-op, where coaches connect, grow, and I am here with Coach Jacinto. If you look at the bottom of the screen, you can go there and follow him on X or Twitter, whatever you call it, at Jacinto3. He is sharing his grind. I am here again with Coach Armando Jacinto. I need to add something to his name. Best-selling coach Armando Jacinto. So we're going to talk about the book just a little bit, but I'm going to put this on the bottom of the screen. Make sure y'all go to Amazon.com. This is the name of the book, The Path for Coaches. I got a misspell there, but this is the book right here. The Path for Coaches, Volume 1, Mentoring. If you've been watching or listening, Coach Jacinto has been dropping lots of knowledge here, but we're not gonna get deep into the story because again, we want y'all to go to Amazon.com and buy the book, The Path for Coaches, Volume 1, Mentoring. Lots of gems in here. Coach Jacinto has the first chapter in this book, and it is outstanding. So I want to touch just on one or two things, Coach. You talked about you talked a lot about mentorship, the perspective versus reality. And then you say mentorship by definition is guidance by an experienced and trusted advisor. And then you expounded on that definition. This is my favorite thing right here. And I want you to really kind of dive into this. You say a great mentor has to allow the mentee autonomy. So we've talked about having the right people on the bus, getting the wrong people off the bus. We've talked about being disciplined and self-motivated. So how do all of those things tie into being a great mentor? And then as a great mentor, in your process of mentoring, allowing the mentee autonomy. What does that look like?
Just allow. I think that in my philosophy is that you delegate responsibilities, not tasks. That's what's going to build leadership. That's going to build leaders. And there's a process that you do that. First, I got to be able to do something. Okay. And then now when I'm doing it, then we'll just take me and you, for example, then I'm going to let you watch me do it. You watch me do it. Okay. Then once you get comfortable enough, then I'm going to let you do it. I'm going to watch you do it and give you, and you're also giving me feedback. It's not just me giving you feedback, because you might have questions of why you do that or how you do that, or, and then as you get to know it, then you might say, well, Coach, you ever thought about doing this, coming up with a better ways to do something. Then I let you do it. I watch you and I'm giving you feedback. And then when you get comfortable enough, now you're doing it. And then but now I'm allowing you to do it, not watching you, but now but I'm still a reference point for you. So say you come into some issues or concerns or, a roadblock, then you still can reach back to me. But then that's where the autonomy comes from, because now some of those things you're going to figure out on your own, because now you might come up with a better way to do it. Or you can continue doing it, but as you go, your growth mindset. And then the last part, now you're gonna show somebody else how to do it. So now that autonomy is giving you where now you're comfortable. Now you might do it the same way as you were taught, like how I taught you, but you're probably going to use some things. You might use it all, but then I can come and watch. I'm gonna come watch you, and I'll say, man, that's good stuff. Where'd you get that from? Well, Coach, I was doing this, and I either thought about it, I talked to somebody, or read about it, and I just something, and so there's your autonomy. So now you have ownership. You have ownership, And so if you have ownership, that's going to give you more confidence. Then you feel like you're going to be invested in it. You're going to be invested, because there at one time when I was kind of coming up with these of what I feel mentees needed, I was using empowerment. But I went and researched that, and I just heard somebody say something. Yeah, I'm gonna empower you to do this. But that's just like, okay, I'm empowering you, but I'm just only empowering you to do this stuff. But you can't do that. Like I said, okay, you can put the cover on. I said, no, you're not gonna. For example, you're not gonna lock the car. I'm gonna lock it. I'm gonna let you put the cover on the car, though. Okay, so
yeah.
So I'm empowering you to put the cover. Well, why can't I lock it? I can lock it now. Just say, hey, there's a car. Make sure it's secure, and however you feel best secure. And you're going to go by your experiences and you taught what was taught. But I'm just empowering you to do this. Okay. Now you can lock the car and you put the cover on. You don't feel like you given that you have autonomy. You feel like, okay, he giving me responsibilities, but it's not my own. He just allowed me now to do it. Compared to, okay, hey, there's a car, you secure, make sure it's secure. So now you might say, don't need a cover. In the garage, we don't need a cover, coach. We just need to lock it up. Or all I need to do is have the garage door down. Okay, it's secure. So the thing, but now I'm giving you autonomy. I ain't gonna say giving, allow it for autonomy. I don't like those gift, and that's kind of where I've evolved to. And because this is like me as an athletic director, when you coach for us, all I said, guys, have a plan. So when I come, I want to know you got a plan. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but if I say, okay, here's your 2 hours, I want to see this, I want to see that, I want to see that. Coach, I don't, you might do that thing, but my team don't need that today. We need to work on. We didn't do a good job of blocking out on free throws. We gave it too many offensive rebounds, so that's going to be a focus today. Or we didn't execute our inbounds play or whatever. So that's what you need to focus on, because that's what was deficient at the last game, or what you feel needs to be working on. I want you to do this. Well, coach, where's the autonomy for me to work on what I feel is needed for this team to get better? If we're just doing this and this and this, we don't need those things. So, but I'm empowering you. I'm empowering you to work offense, but you got to do offense at this time slot. And this is the off. Now you're given empowered to run whatever offense you want to work on. But I'm telling you, when you got to work, that's not autonomy. All I want to do, all I'll tell you, I just want to plan. So when I come, I don't want to bother you. I want to say that you got a plan. And me being a coach and having empathy, I know those things. Okay, you got 20 minutes for fast break offense. Well, when I get there, y'all doing the second step, and I said, well, you're ahead of schedule, but now you got what you wanted out of it, or you might go over because now we need to keep working. We need some more reps on it. So that's your autonomy there. So that's what I feel. And then now you feel like it's yours.
That's good. And autonomy leads to an investment.
My opinion, yes, sir.
That's good. And you know what, coach? That's just wisdom. I'm listening to the wisdom, breaking down the difference between delegating tasks versus delegating responsibilities. Coach, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. Listen, again, what I need y'all to do is I need you to go to Amazon.com. I'm gonna hold the book up. This is the cover of the book. It's called The Path for Coaches, right? The Path for Coaches. Go to Amazon.com. It's right there at the bottom of your screen. Look for The Path for Coaches, Volume 1, Mentoring. Good stuff in here. You're going to get all of this wisdom and then some that Coach Jacinto just dropped. All right, Coach, we're coming up to about the end of this thing. Let's do an agree, disagree as it relates to mentoring. So I'm going to go down the list of things, and I want you to say agree or disagree.
Yes, sir.
All right, here we go, Coach. These all deal with mentoring. Agree or disagree. Every coach needs a mentor.
Agree.
Okay. Agree or disagree. Mentorship should be formal, not just casual conversations.
Disagree.
Okay. Number 3. You can outgrow your mentor. Agree or disagree.
Agree.
Okay. Oh, good. Good. Number 4. Good mentors don't sugarcoat anything. Agree or disagree.
Agree.
Okay, this is a good one right here, Coach. If you have made it to the quote unquote top, you're obligated to mentor someone else.
Agree.
Okay. A mentor who doesn't coach the same sport can still be effective.
Agree.
Okay. I got another. It's a real good one right here, Coach. Your coaching tree says more about you than your win-loss record.
Agree.
Ooh, that's a good one. All right. And then here's our last one right here. A coach without a mentor is more likely to burn out. Agree or disagree?
More, since you said more likely.
Yes, a coach without a mentor is more
More
likely
likely.
to burn out.
I'm just gonna say agree, but I'm on the line on that because there's so many variables. You know,
Okay.
because that's the person. You know, that all depends on the person.
Okay. Okay.
But
Listen.
I'm gonna say agree because you're not getting mentored. You're not getting mentored, so you're losing out with not having a mentor.
Yeah. So it's best for you if you are coaching without a mentor. It's best for you to err on the side of getting a mentor. All right, Coach Jacinto. This brings us to the very last thing of this episode of the Coaches Co-op. This is and one. Coach, give us one thing. It can be anything that you would like to share before we exit tonight's interview. What you got for us, Coach?
Be humble. Be humble, because and know that it's everything. Every just being real. The positive and the negatives that occur in your life. Uh, the negatives I think occur because of a lot of things you do, we do, not all the time, but sometimes it's something we can't. If you have a car accident and you're following the rules, you can't control what somebody else did. Somebody
Yeah.
else is driving. But for sure the positive is you got to have other people with you, but it's also that's from the man upstairs. That's from the man upstairs. Everything that happens is he blessed you. So be humble about it because it can change in a minute. You can sit there and be somebody by 50, and the next day you think oh man, I'm this. And you get beat by 50 the next day. Are you going to say, yeah, it's me, me, me? Or are you going to point at your players?
Yeah.
Great leaders look this way. They look in the mirror.
That's
Great
it. The
leaders look in the mirror.
pendulum does swing both ways. Listen, for those of you watching and or listening, thank you for joining us on the Coaches Co-op. Big thanks to tonight's guest, Coach Armando Jacinto. I'm sorry, I keep forgetting out one part. Best-selling coach Armando Jacinto, for sharing your journey and your wisdom. Listen, if you have watched or listened to this episode and you are walking away with some new insight or some new energy for your team or to take back to your program, then we have done our job. Need you to hit that like button, follow, subscribe, leave us a 5-star review. Coach Jacinto, hang back with me just for a little bit as I play this outro. And everybody remember, here at the Coaches Co-op, coaches do what other people just cannot. Until next time, I'm Coach Prejean for Coach Jacinto. Y'all be easy.